I was working hard. I was putting in the work, but I wasn't working smart at the same time. What I actually needed was to evaluate being productive and being efficient. And that's the topic of working hard versus working smart. You already deserve it. You already deserve what you want to go after. Now it's just putting some of the puzzle pieces together for you. You are listening to the KML Movement Podcast. Connect with me on Instagram at Kelsey Lensman. Hope you enjoyed today's episode and don't forget to share with a friend. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the KML Movement Podcast. My name is Kelsey Lensman, and I first just want to say thank you. Thank you to every single one of you that are listening, that share this show with a friend, that take a picture on social media and tag me and us with it. And the reason I say that is not just because, I want this show to grow, even though I do, I'll be honest, but it's also because you're showing yourself that you want to grow your own self, that you want to learn for you, that you want that motivation, that you want to know more about health and fitness to help you as a human. And I appreciate that because you already deserve it. You already deserve what you want to go after. Now it's just putting some of the puzzle pieces together for you. And that goes into our topic today. And it's a topic I wish I personally would have heard 8 years ago. And is a topic when I talk to so many women that hop on calls with me. I just want to preach this to them because they don't realize that they are working 10 times harder than they really need to get to the result that they want to get. And that's the topic of working hard versus working smart. And before I dig in, I will preface with, yes, I am a firm believer that you need to do the work, that we can't just sit around, think about this, and pretend like rainbows and sunshine are going to come from it, right? So I am about hard work. I believe in it for myself. I believe in it with our clients. We can't get anywhere if we don't actually take action on it. I believe that fully. And at the same time, it's about being productive and being efficient and making sure we're not just working 10 times harder and thinking that hard work equates to results 100% of the time. And if hard work equated to results 100% of the time, technically hard work is not eating any carbs throughout the day. Hard work is doing cardio for 2 hours a day. That's hard work, right? That's not easy. It's hard work. But that hard work doesn't always equate to, rarely does it equate to, the results that you want to get. And so, yes, is hard work a component of it? For sure. In your nutrition and your fitness, and I'm going to separate it here. And working smart is a huge component to it. And a story that I'll share with you is we had a client come in and she was doing all of the things that she thought that she should be doing. She goes, Kels, I'm training 6 days a week. Kels, I'm barely eating said things. Or she thought that she was eating enough, but she didn't realize that she wasn't. I'm not having any desserts. I'm not having anything additional. And I'm doing X amount of cardio per week. Because I don't understand why I'm not getting results because I'm doing all of these things. And I told her this specific topic. I said, I love that you are working hard. I love it. But there's a piece to working smart that is missing here. There's a piece to working smart in nutrition. There's a piece to working smart in training. That it's not just about doing so much or how much can I fit in a day, but is what I'm doing actually productive and effective to get me to where I want to go? And that even relates to career life, right? I can be busy, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm being effective. And so I'm going to talk about working hard and working smart in nutrition and working hard and working smart in training. And for those of you that know me pretty well, you know my background is in sports medicine. And this is actually why I started my entire company. And I used to always always end the videos that I used to make with train hard and train smart at the same time. Train hard and train smart at the same time. It's not one or the other, it's and. And so let's first dive in about working smart in nutrition. And like I shared with you before, there was that client that said either she was not eating any of the desserts, she thought that she was being good, and she was barely eating any of the carbs, or she was eating carbs, but not how many she thought she should have. And so she thought that she was being so good. She thought that she was working so hard. And the fact is, she was working hard. The fact is, she was working really hard. And this could even be specifically with macros. Say you're somebody, if you're familiar, you're counting macros. You're working hard, right? You're putting in that time. You're putting in that effort. But that doesn't always yield that result. And this is where the big chunk of working smart comes in. So specifically for nutrition, it is what is specific and individualized for your body and to your goals. For many people and many women in general, it's not necessarily about how low can you take your intake. It's not necessarily about how much willpower can you push through to not have the dessert, because willpower is going to fade eventually. But it's about how can I work smart to work with my body instead of against it? How can I work smart to know how much of certain things I should have to get me to said goal? Right? Do I need to reverse diet? Do I need to go in a maintenance phase, or do I need to go in a fat loss phase? And that's where the component of working smart comes in. In my journey way back in the day, 8+ years ago, I remember I went through many different phases of my nutrition journey. I've shared it before. I will share it again at a time. But one of the phases, I had a trainer friend. He was somebody that I looked up to, or I thought knew more than especially I did in this area. And he said, all right, Kels, these are your set macros. It was really low carb, I think about 80 grams, which is insanely low, moderately lower fat, and a moderately protein. And so I was doing that for a few weeks, and I was hungry. I was confused. I felt like I wasn't making any progress. And I'm like, why? I'm working so hard. I am working so hard. Why am I not able to get to this result? And the truth was, like I said, the other woman, I was working hard. I was putting in the work, but I wasn't working smart at the same time. What I actually needed was to evaluate. I needed somebody to actually help me with this. That's why I hired a coach. Is I needed somebody objectively that knew more to say, hey, Kels, this is where you're at, and this is what your next steps need to be to get to a goal. And for me, this is where the working smart piece came in. I was severely underfueling my body. And so I had to reverse diet to even be able to get to a specific goal for me. And I would have never known, and this is where many women come in, many women have no idea what working smart actually is. Not that they're not capable of it, but they just don't have the experience of it, right? And so as we put working smart along with working hard, whoo, can this change everything? And this does change everything, because now you know that your effort that you're putting in is productive. Nobody, and our brain is hardwired, we don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste all this effort to not yield the result that we want. It doesn't make sense, right? So instead of me just saying grind harder, instead of me just saying work harder, instead of me just saying, you just got to do more. Many coaches in this industry will say that, and like I said, I subscribe to working hard. You know that about me if you follow me on social media. But that's not always the case. I'm about, and we are about, productive effort. We are about what is actually going to get you to your goals. And that's where working smart comes in. And so from a nutrition standpoint, if you're there and you're like, Kels, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been either subscribing to this nutrition approach, or trying to not do this, or taking this specific food group out, or this type of food out. I applaud you for you making intentional action towards what you want. And at the same time, I say it does not have to be as hard as you probably imagine. I worked with this on a client for the longest time, as she thought if she wanted to get to a certain body, she just had to grind hard, work hard, and then it should be so hard. And is it going to take effort? Yes, right? But when you work smart nutritionally for your body, it's going to take effort, but it doesn't mean it has to be exhausting or hard or ugh. And so from a nutrition standpoint, I want you to take a moment to say, okay, is the effort that I'm putting in productive? Is the effort that I'm putting in yield the result? Or if it's not yielding the result yet, that's okay. But is the effort that I'm putting in, do I have a pathway to get me to my result longer term? That's something we communicate with clients heavily of, if your result is, I'll just say, to tone up. I'm not a huge fan of that word, but that's a word that I've used before. That's a word that a lot of women use. So if my result is to tone up, but I'm coming in eating very little, we will show that client pathway of, we're going to reverse diet. And yes, we're going to slowly increase your intake, but this is how that's going to get you to this said result. You may not notice it initially, and that's okay. But by working smart, it's actually going to help you get to your goal longer term, quicker, and more sustainably longer term. Nobody is in the business of losing X amount or just going for a body in 4 weeks and then completely reversing that. No, that is not the goal here. We want to help change not just physical body, but we want to help change what's going on, the mindset between your ears, so you can not only just change and be in control of that physical body, but to become the woman that is somebody that aligns with the things that that physical body can do, right? And so from a working smart progression, remember, it's not just grinding yourself to the brimstone. It's not just celebrating yourself when you don't have a dessert. Are you going to have to make some hard choices? For sure, 100%. But does that mean you can't have a dessert for the next 8 weeks? Hell no. When I was prepping for bodybuilding, I still had chocolate. For my bodybuilding competitions, I still had chocolate. But that's where working smart came in. I knew that I could. I knew how to work smart to work that in. And so we're just going to quickly transition to the working smart in training. And I could go on a rampage about this specific topic, because this is why I started my company. This is why KML Movement is here, because I was tired of seeing people in pain in the clinic when I realized it was how they moved in everyday life that landed them there, and that they could have potentially prevented it. And so when you talk about working smart from a training side of it, once again, we've had clients come in and say, Kels, I'm doing cardio 5-6 days a week. Why can't I get to said result? Once again, they're working hard, but that doesn't mean they're working smart at the same time. And it's okay, because they only know what they know, right? So there's no shame in any of this. There's no judgment in any of this. But this is where we pull the working smart component in from a training side of it. So working smart for your body means multiple things, but I'm going to bring it down to 2 things. One, how much are you doing, and is it effective for your body? And 2, are you aware of what muscles you're actually moving and working when you're training? Let's talk about the first one, and then I'm going to bring it home on the second one. So the first one here is, how much time is being spent actually training. There is no award for the most amount of hours in a gym. Because guess what happens? Usually the people that are like, oh, I train for 3 hours a day, they're going in there, they're talking for an hour, they're on their phone for the next 30 minutes, but they're in the gym for 3 hours a day. Does that mean that's effective? Not necessarily, right? I talk to a bunch of people in the gym, but we also have to determine when are we actually training, right? So there's no award for how many hours you spend at a gym, right? But from a training component, how much is what's going to work best for your body to get you to a specific goal. I've had women where 3 days strength training is exactly what they need to get to their specific goal. No more, no less. I've had women, I've had myself, 4, 5, 6 days is what gets them to their specific goal, right? But when we think about training, when we think about working out, when we think about moving our body too, recovery is the utmost important. So yes, am I training, but also am I focused on recovery? That's where the working smart comes in. I can train and I can tear down my muscles 5, 6, 7 days a week. But if I'm not actually recovering and repairing what's going on when I'm training, it's not going to yield me to the results that I want to get from a performance standpoint, from a physique standpoint. And so when we're working smart in training how many days or how much, this most likely does not look like a ton of cardio depending on where you're at nutrition-wise. This most likely, how can we be as effective as we can for your mind and your body? So you do not need to spend 2+ hours in a gym. You do not need to spend 7 days a week in there. One of the hardest things for a lot of women is, but you're telling me to train 3, 4, 5 days a week? We'll meet them where they're at. If they need it for their mind, we'll meet them where they're at. But that's one of the hardest things is breaking working hard with being effective 100% of the time. And so let's transition over to the exercises that you do working smart. The exercises that you do, is that being effective? And what I specifically mean by this is let's